Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Clocking In podcast. Today, I have Manny Rivera on the podcast today. He is the new head of school at Whittles School and Studios. How are you doing today, Manny?
Great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm glad you decided to be here. I'll roll the intro. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Clocking In podcast. I'm your host, Asher Reiser, and today we have Miss Bryna Jean Marie. Today, I have Ara Brown with us today, otherwise known as Dr. Brown. Today, I have Manny Rivera on the podcast today, and today we have Scarlett White here with us today. Today, we have Ann Kress, and you're listening to episode 1. Hey, you. I'm talking to you. Sorry for interrupting the podcast, but I gotta tell you about Anchor. It is the easiest way to make a podcast. In fact, it's what I'm using right now. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And when you're done, it'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. So, tell me about yourself, Manny. Tell the audience about yourself. Where did you grow up? What do you do? Just tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, I'll start with the fact that just a couple of months ago, I was asked to come to DC to be the head of the Whittles DC campus, and I was incredibly excited about that. I'd been working for the company for 4 years. My job when I started working for Chris Whittles was to go out and put together the system that allowed us to recruit the best teachers and the best leaders, and then to bring them to our school. And so that's what I did, and was very proud of that, because I fundamentally believe that nothing is more important than having great quality teachers working with our young people and creating the kind of learning environment that we would want to see, of course, in a Whittles school, but everywhere for that matter. So the outcome was wonderful, and I was really pleased to meet and know so many wonderful people. And the opportunity to come to DC was my chance to have an opportunity to not only be part of helping to build this company, but to help build a dynamic school here in DC, and to move things and make decisions and do things that were in the best interest of young people to the extent that I could, and keep things moving, make the school a wonderful school. I started out my career, I've been in education for more than 40 years.
Wow.
I was born and raised in New London, Connecticut. I'm Puerto Rican. Both of my parents are from Puerto Rico, and Anne and my sisters were born there, and I happened to be one of the few born here in the States. As I was going through high school, I had this love for running, and so I used to run track and cross country, and became a big part of my life, and it opened up a lot of doors for me, including an opportunity to go with a scholarship to a college in New England, where I went to Brandeis University for my undergrad degree. And then I went straight to Harvard University for my master's degree, so that I could be a better teacher, because I wanted to get into education. And that's exactly what I did in 1975 when I started teaching in an elementary school in Rochester, New York. I'm going to fast forward about 30 years. I'll take you through every year. But so that was a wonderful experience. And in Rochester, the 20 years that I was there, I was in various roles. Obviously, I was a principal of a junior high school. As a district superintendent, I ended up also being a principal of that high school. Beyond being a principal, I was a deputy superintendent, and then became superintendent when I was 39 years old. I was kind of young for district superintendents. It was a good-sized district. Left there, and I ended up going for my doctorate degree back to Harvard, and then came back to the district again. And then probably it was in mid-90s, after becoming superintendent in Rochester, when a few years after I became superintendent, I took a major risk, and I joined a company called Edison Schools, where the founder was Chris Whittles. And what resonated was the kind of learning environment, that and the design that had been created for Edison schools. And I had the good fortune of coming in as a practitioner to be able to try to make that happen. And we had a very successful several years to begin with. And my job was to not only get schools open, but that entailed everything from finding the principal, finding teachers, making sure the curriculum was in place, et cetera, et cetera. And then I ended up working there for 9 years and then went back to public education again, where I was, believe it or not, superintendent in Rochester again.
Wow.
This time for 5 years, 5 more years. And that was a terrific experience. We moved the needle quite well in Rochester and received a number of accolades for progress that we were making at the time. I left, in fact, 5 years later to work for 2 governors as a senior policy advisor. Make a long story short, I then also had an opportunity to be the CEO for GEMS Education for 5 years, and we opened the schools in Chicago, schools that we are now merging with the Whittles organization. So a variety of different experiences, private, public sector. And what appealed to me and why I really wanted to be here is because the one thing I've learned about creating great schools is first of all, number one, they have to be student-centered. Students like yourself, Asher, you have to have voice. We are there, we exist there to serve, guide, facilitate, and to make learning as exciting and engaging as we possibly can. And when Whittle had promoted the idea of personalized learning, that is what appealed to me, because I had become a fanatic that is exactly what we need in our schools today.
Yeah.
The organization, the bureaucracy, we need to work on behalf of young people and not be so locked in that we can't have some flexible scheduling opportunities.
Yeah.
That we're not listening to what young people want to do, tapping into their interests and their strengths. Hosting these events that you're having right now. These are the kinds of things that are really important that we need to nurture and support to help you either in finding your passion or building on it in ways that you can. And so that when you're ready to go to school, if that's your choice, you go to the school that you want to go to. And we need to support that effort as well. So to make a long story short, it was the nature of the program, young people being involved in the community, knowing that schooling happens within 4 walls. It's really about learning and education that extends beyond the 4 walls of schools and within your community, and that everything you do, 24/7, there's a learning experience to be had. And if you're able to instill that love for learning in young people, that'll stick with them for a lifetime. And that's what I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do here. This is like a capstone for me in many ways. This is my opportunity to bring it all together and deliver here home for you and your peers at the school, and for all the young ones, the little ones that are coming up through from our early learning center right out through lower school. So I'm happy to be here, and I just moved in here to DC. I live 3 blocks from campus now. I can walk
awesome.
2 blocks over and 1 block up the street, and I'm there.
That's amazing. I live 30 minutes away from Whittle.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my story.
Was there like a struggle for you to switch from one passion, which was track, to a new passion, and what was that like?
Well, I actually have always been passionate about running. That's something that doesn't leave you. And I realized that you can't really make a living running, not back then, I competed nationally. I traveled all around the U.S. And eventually internationally. And I did the same when I was in college. And I even competed after college. I ran for the Greater Boston Track Club for a number of years. And so I've always, as a matter of fact, I ran this morning. I run every day. I try to get at least 4 miles in. I can't imagine not running on a given
That's amazing.
But then there's that side of me, and then there's both the professional and other rewards that you get in terms of serving others, just helping young people. You know, the other thing I love, actually, and I've been doing this, is having been able to serve as almost a mentor and a coach for there are different colleagues that I have who are school superintendents, others who aspire to be school superintendents, and they call me all the time and we chat and I give them advice, and I help them prepare for some of their interviews. And so I guess it's a desire to be a nurturing, supportive mentor, coach for not just students, but for all of the adults that I work with, which is important because in a campus community, you have your students, right? And that's what we're all there for. But then you have staff that we would need to pay attention to and support their continued growth and development. Our teachers, our administrators, our school leaders, they all need, they're part of that same family, and everybody. Let me tell you, learning is something that happens every day. We always learn something new. That's my basic philosophy. Every day there's a new learning experience, and so we have to pay attention to that and be open to that. And that's why I love to work with people, because you get great ideas and you listen, and I always give them credit, but sometimes I end up looking good when in reality it's somebody else's idea.
Definitely.
But I give them credit. But in the end, a lot of heads and a lot of people working together can make this happen. And one person alone isn't going to do it.
Yeah.
If you get one person alone who puts together a plan and no one's with him or her, that plan's going nowhere. So you got to have people
it's about teamwork.
Believe in what they're doing. They got to own it. They got to deliver it. And
definitely.
That's what's important.
I really appreciate your passion for the education system, and I can definitely vouch for the mission that Whittles is going on, and what you mentioned you're passionate about is that it is very important to have student voice. And I've been at Whittle for 2 years, and I've never learned better, and I've never had better teachers who support my passion, who support this podcast, and helping me evolve and be a better person. And you clearly have a lot of experience in education, and you also mentioned you loved track in high school. I was curious if was education always on your mind? Was going into education always the end game for you, or what was it?
Well, I mean, actually, in the spirit of full disclosure here, I just loved running. I ran all the time. Yeah. And education kind of came easy. It was all of my efforts were not necessarily directed where they should have been. It probably wasn't until I got to college that I really, I think, took off in learning, and my interest in education really took hold. And so in high school, math, calculus, English, and all the required courses. I did them. I did very well in school. I was among the top of my class, but I really hadn't quite found a calling yet. The only calling I had at that particular time that I devoted literally 3 to 4 hours a day was in getting ready for competition in the sport of track and field or running. When I got to college, it was a different story. All of a sudden I'm in a very good university, Brandeis, and with a lot of students from all around the country there, and it really raised the bar for me, and the standards were much higher, and that's when I began to excel. I remember one class that I had. It was a class where you actually had to do some work in a nursery, and at the same time that you were in a nursery, it was a psych class. You were reading Piaget, you were reading all about child development, And then we had to give these assessments to the little ones, to the little toddlers. And I was fascinated by, looking at their drawings and then comparing it to what I was reading, on developmental psychology. And it was amazing to me. And so it caused a keen interest in learning and education. I remember telling this story many years later when I went back to Brandeis University and was asked to speak. How that was a sort of a pivotal point for me, and while I was there, I decided to pursue what they called a teaching certificate track, and I wanted to go into teaching. It was either that or law school.
Yeah.
Now I got accepted to law school, but then I thought, oh my God, do I really want to go for 3 more years? I did want to go to law school. I had no interest in going to law school, but all of my other friends were going off to law school. But I decided to stay in education. I knew that I wasn't really ready for teaching. I did really well at Brandeis, but I wasn't ready, and I wanted to be better prepared. So I went for my master's degree, and that's where I studied the teaching of reading, children's literature. I mean, everything that I possibly could that would prepare me to be a better teacher. And I'm so thankful that I did that. So I earned that master's, and then when I left in September and went to a district public school system to teach, right away, I really began to enjoy it and I love teaching. The best jobs that I've ever had in my entire career has been when I was a teacher or when I was a principal. So in that vein, it's kind of fitting that this is where, in later years, after 40 years, that here I am in DC, and really, I'm really just starting to have fun. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to getting around in the school and meeting with students and being there every day. I view it as sort of a community. That we are a community, and you're almost family. You're, in the sense that these are my kids, and these are my parents, and their parents are going to share with me, and I want to hear what they think, and teachers are going to do the same, and together we're gonna make this a great place to be, and that's how I see it.
Yeah. And I guess that leads me into my next question, and I know that you've had a lot of experience in education. You've been a principal before. You've been like the head of different schools before, and I'm curious how you're going to approach coming to Whittle, as it is definitely a new school. It's a new form of education, and we've been at school for 2 years, and I was curious, what's your approach to like bringing us acquainted with you and building that relationship?
Well, I think what's really important is that everybody knows that I'm here to build on the successes that you've had and the great experiences that you've had, and then so you have to ask the question, okay, what caused that? What were some of those practices that teachers followed that were so meaningful for you and for others? Those are the kinds of things that I want to continue. You got to remember, I was also on the ground floor in designing and developing the school and developing the kind of teacher training. Even though my responsibility was teacher hiring, I was part of a larger team that was putting together all of the sort of the touches and the expectations around experiential learning, personalized learning, advisory, all of the key components of our program I was connected to in helping shape. So knowing the mission, knowing the vision is something that I bring to the campus. So now my job, so I'm not unfamiliar with it. I'm very familiar with it. And then number two, I think it's really just getting in and meeting with you and sitting down with groups of students and visiting classes.
Definitely.
And seeing you in the lunchroom and hearing your thoughts and and then taking some of that and say, okay, well, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that, and just keep that culture, keep building on that kind of a culture of student voice and engagement and so on. And all it's all about what our mission is all about.
Thank you for that. You've shared a lot of messages that I think a lot of people need to hear, like following your passion, but also knowing, and being able to balance both things that you really enjoy, things like track and things like being in the education system, and especially just in the message that you shared about the education system in general, about how there needs to be more student voice in a lot of schools, and frankly, from my experience, I've been more successful because of it, and I really appreciate you being part of the team in the background, and then now being in the front line, and helping on the school again. And unfortunately, we are out of time, but I really appreciated you being on here today. Do you have any last things to say?
No, I just can't thank you enough. I'm so glad that you asked me to be on this podcast, and thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you in person and support you. And I know you'll come by and keep me posted on things that are going on.
Oh, most definitely. I'll give you all of the secrets of the school.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So, all right, partner, we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. This was Manny Rivera and Asher Reiser, and we are clocking out. Bye-bye.